Okay, there's three Kilkenny teams in All Ireland club finals this weekend. Ballyhale Shamrocks will be playing Borris-Ileigh. Tullaroan are against Father O'Neill's of Cork, and Conahy Shamrocks, they're going to be up against Russell Rovers of Cork. So I'm delighted to say that joining me on the line is Nickey Brennan, former GAA president, and of course Conahy man, not to mention Kilkenny hurler and GAA president. Nickey, you must be looking forward to this weekend.
Yes, we are, Shane. It's a big event for the club. Unusually, where it's our second time in 11 years being in Croke Park playing an Ireland Club Junior Final, something we would never have dreamed about. I certainly didn't see this 6 months ago. So it's a huge honour for the club. We know how important the day is. We won the first time we were there. We'd be hoping to win it for a second time, but we know we're meeting fairly formidable opponents.
Because back in 2008, when you played Castle Pollard of Westmeath, you were GAA president, and you actually handed the trophy over to the winning captain that time, didn't you?
Yeah, well, in Croke Park, I still am the only president to present the winning All Ireland trophy to his own club. So that's just the way it is. I mean, obviously, I'd love to see that honour befall John Horton come Saturday, but you never know. But yeah, it's one of those nice little things you have in the back of your mind, which was something to remember it by. It was a very special day because I would have coached quite a number of those young lads when they were young in the club as well. So that's very special. And no matter how many times you present trophies in Croke Park, the notion of presenting to your own, well, that's the ultimate.
And can you explain to people who wouldn't know, what sort of area is Conahy? It's a small area.
Yes, we're about 6 miles outside Kilkenny on the road to our pitch is close enough to the boundary there with O'Loughlin Gales. We're on the way to Portlaoise. We're in an entirely rural parish. We used to have a post office, but like a lot of rural areas, that's gone. We have two churches coming under pressure now because there's less need for maybe two. We have three primary schools, one of which is not so big, two of which are small enough, and it's entirely agricultural community as you drive between Kilkenny and Ballyragget and head over towards Castlecomer and Muckalee. That's our district. We'd be a relatively smallish enough population, Kilkenny-wise, but we've always punched up to our weight pretty well, particularly at underage level, even if we have been operating in the B and C grades. We've done fairly well, but we're getting stretched now with numbers, I have to say. It's becoming more and more difficult to field teams at underage, but we're getting there and we're still surviving, and hopefully that'll continue into the future.
From what I believe, the GAA pitch is the hub of the community, and the only bar in the area is actually beside the field. Is that right?
Well, yes, that's true. It's the only centre in the parish, and that came about rather ironically when I was GA president, because the only hostelry in the parish was in actually the complete end of the parish up near Castlecomer. That closed down, and the club made a decision that they should do something about it, keep the community together. And I suppose they went fundraising partly on the back of myself was being president. It was in a suitable time. There was a feel-good factor about the way, and they raised quite a substantial amount of money, and it's now the hub of the community. Our field ironically is called the Polo Grounds, a very famous name with another big city in the US. So it's been known as that, and we spent a lot of work developing the field. Look, ideally we'd love to have another field as well. Camogie is progressing very well in the club, and we have a decent underage section, albeit we generally operate in the lower grades, but nevertheless we're proud of what we achieve.
And you'd have a couple of nephews, am I right in saying, involved with the team?
On the team, and there's another nephew, Sean, in the subs.
Right, okay. Is that exciting enough for you?
Well, that's great. I suppose it'll be tense enough. You're always hoping they'll do well. I know, obviously, all the players pretty well. You'll be hoping they do well. But look, All Ireland finals can take on a life of their own. You don't know, for a lot of players, it's their first time playing in Croke Park. It can be intimidating if you haven't played there before. So you never know. Junior clubs especially are not likely to have too many players who played in Croke Park. Maybe a bit different with intermediate and certainly different with senior.
And do you find, having been an inter-county manager yourself, are you able to stay away from the team somewhat, or do you find yourself involved?
No, I'm not involved in the team at all, really. I suppose as I'm involved in a community radio station in Kilkenny, I tend to be in that role at games, to be honest about it, Shane. But I'm not involved locally in it. I stay back from them. And look, I've been involved in the club for, God knows how many, 40 years at this stage. I've stood back and let others do it. I look after the website. I let others run the show, and I think you have to know when you back off and leave it to others to run the show.
Can you explain how the season has gone? Because ordinarily it's county champions and Munster Leinster and Munster, etc. champions who get through to the All Ireland final. But Conahy didn't actually even win the county title and yet went through.
Well, we got defeated in the county final by Loughlin Gaels, and because they're a senior team, they were not allowed to represent Kilkenny. It was probably a final we left behind us, I would feel. I think that's the general consensus. And I suppose after that game, while the team knew they were going to represent Kilkenny, I think that there wasn't huge enthusiasm for a campaign. But after they dusted themselves down after a week or so, they then went about it, and they've progressed fairly well. I mean, they've had generally impressive enough passage. Probably the second half against the Wexford team was probably the most difficult game that they had, when they were winning by 10 points with 2 minutes to go, and the opposition got 2 goals. So it made it a little bit of a nervous finish. But nevertheless, they came through Leinster pretty good, and they had a good win over Owen from Derry the last day. Now, they were a bit unfortunate. They lost 2 players. Probably a little tough on them, I'd say. But he got 3 goals in the first half, and in any game when you get goals, you're putting yourself in a strong position. And they won out pretty impressively. So look, they're in the final on merit. Not a place I thought they would be 6 months ago, to be honest about it. Delighted to be there, and they're going to be playing a very seasoned team and a very good team. Because Kilkenny and Cork tend to be strong at junior level anyway, so you would generally expect it to be an exceptionally good game. So I know the lads here are hoping for the best, as I am.
It's very interesting at this sort of grade at junior level, where neither team is going to have footage of the opposition team, and even if they did send a spy to the other semi-final, they're basically going to know very, very little about each other.
Yeah, the word is though that the Russell Rovers got their hands on the footage of the Kilkenny junior final.
Really?
Anyway, so good luck to them. At this stage, it doesn't make an awful lot of difference. You just go out into Croke Park. You just have to get on the ball as quick as you can, get dominant in your position, and just work hard throughout the game. I mean, there clearly are players who are not used to playing at that sort of level, not used to be playing in Croke Park. They could be nervous, they could drop the ball, they could do all sorts of things, and then maybe somebody unexpected just rises to the occasion. So I don't know if either team has huge advantage on one another. It's a matter of how they knuckle down on the day.
And what would it mean to Conahy to go on and win this All Ireland? And even the last time in 2008, what was the sort of reaction in the parish?
Well, it was tremendous. I mean, the fact that your club went to Croke Park, that the parish kind of closed down for the day and went to Croke Park. And it's no different with Russell Rovers. They will, in part of East Cork, they'll have their neighbours with them as well, of course. Father O'Neill's, Tullaroan are not too far away from us, but they're a little bit further away than Father O'Neill's and Russell Rovers. So look, it's going to be a great occasion. It's a tremendous occasion for a club. Brilliant to win it, and would be a big disappointment to lose it. There's no question about that. You don't go up intending to lose it, and neither certainly Conahy or not. They're absolutely very keyed up to win this game. But at the end of the day, sport is about winners and losers, as cruel and all as that sounds. But our lads are heading away confidently, and they would love to add another title to the one they won in 2008, because that put them on the map, I suppose, in many respects. And it came around the same time as the clubhouse was opening, so there was a real feel-good factor around the place.
And best of luck to your club in that. I suppose, as a Borris-Ileigh native, I was very interested to get a Kilkenny sort of perspective. Of course, Ballyhale aren't your club, but from your point of view, you've seen how dominant Ballyhale have been over the years. Since being founded in 1972, like, let's say they win this All-Ireland, they'll have won an All-Ireland once in every 6 years of their existence. They're just an amazing club, really.
They're an incredible club. I suppose the first thing we should say that, and they've actually said this to us here, they want to be known now as Shamrocks Ballyhale rather than Ballyhale Shamrocks. I suppose I better get that right, because there'll be someone watching this clip here. Look, they're an amazing club. They have won the title more times than anybody else. They have seven titles to their name, and they only lost one. That was the first one they played in 1979. So they're a tremendous team. They come with an awful lot of experience. A lot of young players as well, strange as that may seem. And they will be favourites on Sunday. But I have to say, and I know, in talking to you, I'm talking to a Borris-Ileigh native, who in many respects, if life was different, maybe would be lining out on Sunday or be tabbed out on Sunday. But you're not complaining. You already have 2 Club All-Irelands to your name with your adopted Coola. So that's not a bad compromise. But look, I think that while Shamrocks will be favourites, there's something about Borris-Ileigh that they've started off on this campaign the way they won Tipperary against Kildangan, and they've always been the the underdogs going into all of their matches. And they seem to be a team on a roll. And sometimes when you're on a roll like that, anything can happen. But there are a couple of key elements in the game that how well Borris-Ileigh managed some of the Shamrocks players. And dare I say it, I think the key man is going to be Colin Fennelly, myself. And there's a certain Paddy Stapleton going to be entrusted with marking him.
Yeah, I heard of him.
Who is rather well known to you. Because certainly the last day against Loughneel, it was Fennelly was the difference. Because not alone did he get the scores, but every time he got the ball, he was prepared to take on a marker, whatever part of the field that was in. So if he wasn't making progress on that, he was getting a free. And you know who takes those frees and doesn't miss too many, TJ Reid. So I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges to have. The other thing I think the Shamrocks as well will need to do is some of their younger players just a little bit off colour lately. They got well beaten in the under-21 county final between Shamrocks Ballyhale and O'Loughlin Gales. And we were feeling ourselves that maybe in reviewing the game that maybe some of the players are getting a little bit tired. And they didn't really blossom that much against Loughneel, because they got a really difficult match, and it was the more seasoned players like Joey Holden, Michael Fennelly holding the centre there, and TJ Reid and Colin Fennelly. They were the four players that took them out of a hole. Now Richie Reid as well played well, and he's not gone back to the level, and yet he'll be around for Sunday. They're some of the key players, but they will need the younger players to step up, and in that regard, Darren Mullen, he was reasonably okay. They'll certainly need Adrian Mullen, and they'll certainly need Owen Cody to step up to the mark in Croke Park. The fact that they've been there a few times in Croke Park with underage teams will mean that it won't be a strange environment for them. But if they don't step up to the mark, Borris-Ileigh are in with a very good chance.
Are there any other matchups that kind of stand out to you? You said Paddy Stapleton, Colin Fennelly. I suppose one that would come to mind to me is probably you're looking at maybe Brendan Maher against TJ Reid, albeit probably the best thing, that one of the greatest things that Borris-Ileigh have had this year is Brendan might mark one of the roaming half forwards and then punish them going the other way. So that's one that I'm not sure if you can do that as much on TJ Reid. And then another one, I was thinking Conor Kenny's been very good under the puckouts, but would Richie Reid be the guy to go on him? So what matchups stand out to you?
It's very hard to know. I mean, obviously it is an interesting position with Johnny Kelly and Michael Fennelly as well. Yeah. But I'm not so sure that I think Kilkenny and Tipperary teams tend to be more traditional, man-on-man, position-on-position. I think interestingly the last day against Loughneel, it was interesting the interchanging between Colin Fennelly and TJ Reid. Colin Fennelly was not getting on the ball early in that game, mainly because Loughneel were playing back their midfielder Gerald Bradley. They were playing him in at the half-back line now, but he was only playing in there for the puck-outs and when the ball was kind of knew he was coming down the field, and he was leaving Ronan Corcoran free in the middle of the field. Now Ronan Corcoran did pick up a couple of what I call loose balls, and Shamrocks might have exploited Ronan Corcoran a bit, might have used him a bit better to exploit that gap there. But with Bradley going into the gap behind the centre back and the centre forward, TJ Reid, the ball wasn't getting into Colin Fennelly, so they kind of altered that, brought out Colin Fennelly to do a bit of foraging, got the ball out to the wing a bit more, and I think you might actually see that, because ironically, while TJ Reid would be reasonably well known to Brendan Maher in terms of marking him, he would have done it in the past. I suspect he might not have marked Colin Fennelly that often, per se, because Colin tended to be in the full forward line. But if Colin drifts out a bit, which he might very well do, and in the game the way it's going now and the intensity of the game, I mean, often players need a little break. There might be that's something that you might see happening on Sunday as well. So it could very well be that Borris-Ileigh will have to be ready for those type of alternations if the Shamrocks continue what they did against Loughneel.
Do you think there's any value in the fact that all of these Ballyhale guys have been here as recently as the last 12 months winning the Club All-Ireland, whereas for the vast majority of these Borris-Ileigh guys, this will be their first time at Croke Park?
I look at, of course, it's an issue. I mean, that's something that the likes of Brendan Maher will have to. He's the best person there to talk to the Borris-Ileigh lads about acquainting them with Croke Park. They did get a run out on the pitch there last week, so they will have gone up and seen what it looked like. I mean, it was just to give them a sense of the environment, the dressing rooms, and all of that. They were entitled to get that because they hadn't been there before. Look, it all depends. There'll be a big crowd at this final because the football final as well is an attractive game. So there'll be a big crowd there, and I think the people will want to come and see both games. So I do think that it's a big occasion for the Borris-Ileigh players, bar the likes of Paddy, Brendan and Dan McCormick, and there's probably maybe some of the rest of them might have played underage. But for the Shamrocks, it won't be a new experience per se. But every day brings its own challenges, and this is unusual that despite all the great games between Kilkenny and Tipperary, we're now looking at the first time a club final between the two counties. It's incredible to think that is the case. And that brings its own little bit of edge to the occasion as well, because it brings up county rivalries which have been so fantastic over the last 2 decades. So it's really a question of who can settle the players the most, and I think in Borris-Ileigh's case, I think Brendan Maher has a big part to play both before and during the game on that, because things mightn't go right at times. He's the man maybe to have a word with the fella and just take him on and tell him to forget about what happened. He can only deal with the next situation.
Isn't it kind of interesting over the years that Joey Holden would have been questioned at different times, and the 2016 All-Ireland would have been the one that was spoken about the most. But in past couple of seasons, like, he's really kind of come on in the sense of how people perceive him, that he's considered like a strong point in the Ballyhale and Kilkenny team at this point. And Michael Fennelly has, obviously run the show for many years for both club and county, but now he might be seen as maybe a weakness at centre back if he's run at. But it's rarely something we see exploited because Ballyhale are so good around the field.
Well, I think what you say about Joey Holden is right. He would easily be probably the best defender in Kilkenny club hurling for 4 or 5 years, and he's probably been looked at as the day that he was exposed maybe against Tipperary when the full back line was left on a hiding to nothing and things like that day. But Joey Holden has been hugely reliable for Ballyhale Shamrocks. They would never have performed and won as much without him leading the team from behind. And as for Michael Fennelly, of course he's lost the yard of pace, that's understandable. But at the same time, if you run at Michael Fennelly, you still have to get around it.
Yeah.
I think that is the issue here. So the only way you're going to do that is if you're running with somebody who's running off the shoulder with you, that you can get the ball, and that's where the wing backs have to come up and help here. In certainly the likes of Richie Reid, who will have plenty of pace there. So look, there are tactics there that you might think about now might very well form part of the game. But games take on a life of their own, and sometimes the lads on the line have to be smart enough, and there are smart people on both sides with Johnny Kelly and Henry Shefflin to see how the game is flowing in a certain way and how you might have to counteract the opposition depending on the way the game is going, or perhaps the day that's in it, if it's wet or if it's windy.
And if you were to call it, then what way are you swinging?
I have to say, look, I think Ballyhale will be favourites, and I still think that they're likely to win the match, but I would say that Borris-Ileigh have been on a journey. I mean, they weren't favourites in the Tipperary county final, and they defied the odds that day. And from ever since, they in a way, they appear to be a team that have their name written on the trophy. But I just feel that maybe Shamrocks, with the bit of experience they have, with Colin Fennelly, with TJ Reid, and on the basis that the younger players step up to the plate, and they're very good hurlers in that, and all of those key younger players are now part of Cody's panel, although they haven't had any opportunity of game time yet. I think I'll give it to Ballyhale Shamrocks, but I think Borris-Ileigh we're in with a very good chance, and I think we'll have a great final, because we haven't had a great finals for quite a while until, Barcoola and Piershik. We've had some one-sided finals, but I think this one could very well be one of the great finals.
I think I'm still kind of sore after that Barcoola and the Piershik final, actually. But what about the third final then this weekend? Tullaroan against Father O'Neill's of Cork. Again, I suppose most people would seen very little of both teams, but I saw Tullaroan in the county final. Very impressive team. I'd imagine excitement is very, very big in the area.
Well, look, you were there in Nolan Park when they won the county final. You were over my shoulder when that famous chat was with Tommy Walsh that day. Yeah. I mean, you know what it means to the likes of him. He sums up. He is the spiritual leader of Tullaroan on and off the field. And I suppose, like I mentioned Brendan Maher a few moments ago, while Tullaroan have a couple of players who played in Croke Park, like Tommy Welsh, younger Tommy Welsh, like Pádraig Walsh, and like Martin Keown. I mean, Tommy Welsh is the guy who his job will be to put the rest of them at ease when they go into Croke Park, because like the Borris-Ileigh lads, it's a new environment for all of those guys, and they can react I mean, Tullaroan probably should have been out of Kilkenny intermediate grade before 2019. A lot of us would say that, and they'd probably deep down say that themselves. But they're a very good team. I think they're really fired up for this final. There's a name of Tullaroan is written under the Hogan stand there, where they played in their match early in Croke Park when it was bought. So they have so many great players there. When you talk about Lowry Marr and Paddy Phelan and players like that, so there's history in Tullaroan that these lads are not allowed to forget, and that's why they're really fired up for this. I don't know much about Father O'Neill's other than in the case of themselves and Russell Rovers. They are from East Cork. The county champions from East Cork have been there for 3 years, and some of those players have played and have senior club medals in Cork. So they come with a good pedigree. Now, they could be missing a couple of players. I haven't heard the latest yet. I hope those players are available, because I wouldn't want anybody to be missing an All-Ireland final. But nevertheless, I think Tullaroan, I just feel their name is on this cup. I feel they've been working extraordinarily hard to win this title, and I think they're really are going all out for it. But I do know that, in fairness to Father O'Neill's, they've been impressive in Cork. I've been reading reports of their games, but I just feel Tullaroan, on the basis of what I know about them and their mentality as much as their hurling, I just feel that they're destined for this title.
Yeah, as we speak, a couple of the players that got red carded against Turin for Father O'Neill's, they had their initial appeals rejected. So we'll see closer to the game, and it's Tuesday at 5 p.m. as we're talking, but we'll see closer to the game if they get off. But are Tullaroan going to be leaning heavily on Tommy for that inspiration, or the fact that they have Pádraig Walsh and then the younger Tommy Walsh in the back line? Is that what's going to give them the edge? The main man for Father O'Neill's, of course, will be Declan Dalton.
Yeah, no, they have a strong line down the middle. I mean, their goalie, Young Boogie, is playing extremely well at the moment, but they have a strong line down the middle. But their defence overall has been very good. It was very good the last day against Nevena of Antrim. And, okay, while the final margin might have flattered Tullaroan a little bit, nevertheless, I think the backs for Tullaroan played extremely well. And look, it's just that Tommy Walsh, the Tommy with the All-Ireland medals and that, Tommy that played wing forward he won his first All-Ireland medal as a wing forward. He's not new to the player forward position, but he's the kind of orchestrator. And in beside him in the corner, he has his brother Shane, who has been very mobile. He's been ratcheting up some very big scores. And Martin Keown certainly appears to be playing extremely well at the moment. So I suppose I know Tullaroan clearly an awful lot better than Father O'Neill, but I'm conscious of what you said there about Declan Dalton. He has been a huge influence for Cork underage teams, for Emer Kelly, and if they're potentially without one of their other key forwards. I hope they're not. I hope they get off, but I mean that has to take its course. I would want to wish nobody missing All Ireland playing in that regard. But it's because I know Tullaroan so well. That's probably why I just feel I think it's their destiny to win this final.
So are we looking at a Kilkenny hat-trick?
Well, look, I would say that of the three teams, I'd say our own team is probably under the biggest pressure, if I'm being truthful about it. I definitely see Tullaroan winning. And you know, if Borris-Ileigh continue the momentum, and if they continue the level of improvement and teamwork and spirit that's in that team, sometimes that spirit, that it can almost be unbreakable, and it can overcome the biggest obstacles. And Borris-Ileigh have as biggest obstacles as you can get in Shamrocks Ballyhale on Sunday, and they're capable of doing that. But I would say Kilkenny will certainly, I think they'll come out with 2 titles, but hopefully 3.
And just one question now that it comes to mind. Anne Downey's been installed as manager of Ballyraggett. First female manager that I can think of with an adult hurling team. What were your thoughts on her installation?
Well, first of all, Anne was worked with a lot of those players in Ballyraggett at minor level and with under 21 level. So she would not be, she'd be well known to the players. And from that so why the hurling field is only 2 pucks away from her door. So why would she not get involved? She has loads of experience, and I'm sure, and I hope she's a trailblazer for maybe more women who might come in and take over the management of men's teams. What's wrong with that? We have enough men training ladies teams, so why not have women training men's teams? I think it's fantastic, and I think that, look, it'll be difficult enough. They were relegated last year. They have a number of players who are injured at the moment, including Kevin Kelly, who's on the Kilkenny panel. He's recuperating from an operation. a few more lads not sure where they'll be in the coming year. So it's going to be difficult enough. But if all the resources of Ballyragget can work well with Anne Downey, she has every possibility of bringing them back up to senior in Kilkenny.
Well, thank you very much, Nickey, for your time, and hopefully 2 out of those 3 Kilkenny teams win from your point of view. Obviously, I'm going to be back in Borris-Ileigh all the way in the game against Shamrocks at Ballyhale. But thanks very much for joining me.
Well, a delighted, Shane, and I know for you and for all in Borris-Ileigh, there's a huge amount of emotion. I didn't say much about it in my chat with you. There's a huge amount of emotion wrapped into what's going to happen in Croke Park for the people of Borris-Ileigh and for the Stapleton family and all of that. And look at, you're going to have one special person looking down on you, and I know egging you on. And one thing I'll say, I wouldn't begrudge Borris-Ileigh because I know what they've endured, and this would be probably one way of repaying back for all the suffering they've had to put up with.
Thank you very much for saying that, Nickey. I appreciate that.